What I mean by playing solo in this case is, can the game be enjoyed without being forced to have friends or voice communication with strangers? Firstly, this is essentially a standalone dungeon running game that extracts the Mythic Plus endgame content from MMOs like World of Warcraft and makes it the entire focus. What's genuinely interesting is that it eliminates the typical MMO journey. There is no leveling, no story quests, and practically no open world to explore. You jump straight into the challenging, rewarding dungeon content that typically takes hundreds of hours to reach in traditional MMOs. So it's designed for people who enjoy the cooperative challenge of dungeons, but don't want to invest time in everything else. The game is built around 4-player dungeon runs where you take on the traditional tank, DPS and healer roles. Each dungeon has trash mobs you need to defeat, and a final boss with sometimes more complex or less complex mechanics. As you complete dungeons, you move up in difficulty levels, similar to the +2/+5 system in Mythic Plus. The higher the difficulty, the more challenging the enemies become and the better the rewards. New mechanics appear at higher levels as well. From what I can tell so far, Fellowship is fairly accessible for solo players who don't mind grouping with randoms. There's a queue system similar to World of Warcraft's Group Finder. The dungeons are relatively short, 10 to 15 minutes, so you are not committed to long sessions. The user interface provides clear information about mechanics and performance, and the game seems designed with pickup groups in mind. That said, like any team-based game, communication helps tremendously with higher difficulties. You might hit a ceiling if you never communicate with teammates, but for moderate difficulties, playing with randoms works fine. I have been using exclusively the in-game text chat so far. The game currently has 6 characters during the testing phase, though this will presumably expand. The progression is entirely gear-based. There are no character levels. The game also has sockets and gems to customize your gear further. The characters have fixed abilities and talents, which is quite different from World of Warcraft that lets you customize your build. The boss fights feature mechanics like knockbacks, silences and positioning challenges that become more complex at higher difficulties. So if you enjoy the group content of MMOs but dislike the time investment and you don't mind playing with random teammates, then the game does seem to provide that satisfying feeling of overcoming challenges as a team, even with strangers. And that sentence concludes today's video. If your time was respected, a like or comment is very much appreciated.